Quick question. Are you one of those people that does a sales call with someone or has a discovery call with someone, and then when it comes to actually making the sales pitch at the end of the sales call, you have quite a lot of people who say, "That's fabulous. Yep, I'm interested, but I'm just going to go and do what you recommended first." Or, I've got to go and do XYZ first. I've got other things I need to take care of first. Well, I call this the sales call homework issue. You, in your sales calls, have given people things to do and homework that they need to take care of before they can actually consider whether they are ready, willing, and able to invest in the actual thing you were supposed to be talking about, them buying from you. Well, if you've had this come up or this is a concern of yours in sales conversations, this podcast episode is going to be very helpful for you. This is episode number 440, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/440. And not only that, today is day 10 of Tashmas, which means I have a special gift for you today, and it may or may not involve a deep discount on one of my courses. So let's dive in. Hello, I'm Tash Corbin, a business strategist and mentor based on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. The mission of this podcast is to help heart-centered entrepreneurs to make more money, and in doing so, change the world for the better. This podcast was recorded on the lands of the Gubbi Gubbi and Jinnaburra people. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. The homework issue can arise in both sales calls that are just about purchasing a product or service, so someone just wants to talk to you about working with you, but they can also, and more often, occur when that sales conversation is on the back of a free or paid other session. So you have offered free sessions for people to work with you on something, and then you're moving into the sales call component towards the end of that session. Or you have offered a single session, or you've been working with someone in a shorter term capacity, and now it's time to have a sales conversation about the next phase. So regardless of whether you are specifically only doing a sales conversation or the sales conversation forms part of another piece of work with you or another conversation or session, the homework issue can arise in all of those cases. As I said, it is more likely to occur where you've provided a free session. But I know that for a lot of heart-centered entrepreneurs, sales conversations that are supposed to just be sales conversations turn into free sessions pretty easily because we are so keen to help people. We have so much to share. We have so much that we want to do with people. We have so much value to give. We can't help ourselves but start to give advice in those sales conversations. Now, I want to say, first and foremost, there is nothing wrong with giving free advice or making suggestions in those sales conversations. And I don't want this to become a hard and fast rule for you that I never give advice in sales calls. I want to prevent the homework issue from ever arising because it is often your generosity, your savvy advice, you dropping a couple of amazing gems in your sales calls and sales conversations that drives up people's desire to work with you. That being said, we can be more mindful about the way that we structure and lead sales conversations to ensure that we aren't inadvertently creating the homework issue because we feel like we need to prove our worth or we have to give away lots and lots of advice to be worthy of having someone make the decision to invest in working with you. So first and foremost, let's look at how to structure things so that we are reducing the homework load and being mindful about what advice and strategies we give to people in sales conversations. So the first thing that I do is if I am jumping on a call that is a straight sales call, someone has asked to have a chat about purchasing a program or doing some VIP work together, I start that call by setting that seen. So yes, I do offer people calls to discuss whether it's a right fit for us to work together. But if that's what we are on the call for, I make sure that I take responsibility for setting that tone at the start of the call and taking the lead on that conversation. So I'll start a sales call by saying, okay, we are here today to discuss whether the takeoff program is the right fit for you. Or, okay, we're here today to discuss whether a VIP package to support you to get more people on your mailing list is the right fit for us to work together. Is that correct? So I'm just confirming we're on the same page and I'm setting the scene of what it is that we're there to talk about. I also do that when someone has a single session with me. So if they have booked in a single session, I will start that call by saying, okay, we've got 45 minutes for our call today. And from your pre-session questionnaire, I have down that you want to work on 1, 2, and 3. Now, first and foremost, I think we'll be able to get through all of that in one go, or if not, I'll say we may not be able to get through all of that. So I would recommend that we focus on 1 and 2 first. Is that okay with you? And then I'll also say at the start of the call, as we get to the end of the call, I'll make sure that we wrap up in time so you're very clear on your plan moving forward. And if you want to discuss how we can keep working together from there, we can do that as well. Does that all sound okay? So I'm also making sure that the person knows if they want to work with me further, we have time to do that, or there is a space for us to discuss that in the conversation. We can leave that until the end. It takes the pressure off them from needing to remember anything. It takes the pressure off me from surprising them at the end with some kind of sales pitch and upsell. I don't want that to be the feeling. But I am saying if we want to talk about how we can work together further, we can do that. There's space for us to do that at the end of the call. Now, I want to quickly say here that it might seem like such a teeny tiny thing to do and that the way that you start the call won't have that big of an impact to how that call ends. But I can tell you from my own experience and also from the experiences of my takeoff students, where we do a lot of work on their sales conversation structure, that it makes a significant difference to the way that the call unfolds and what happens at the end of that sales conversation. Even with the free sessions that takeoff students offer as part of our validation process, by starting that free session with that information up front, people have seen a significant difference in the number of people who at the end of a call will proactively ask, hey, you said if we wanted to keep working together, we could do that at the end of the call. I'd really love to hear what the options are. So you're actually just planting that seed and setting that tone, and it does actually make a big difference. These little nuances make a huge difference. So I just wanted to address that. Next, I also think it's important to note that the goal is not to give people zero strategies or homework, especially if they are on a paid session or a free session. You want to deliver that value. You want to give them the advice that you want to give them. And even in free sales conversations with people where it's a 15-minute chat to talk about a program, I do still give people little nuggets of advice or strategies that I think will be really effective for them. However, I do not send them away with a 6-month full calendar of 97 different things that they need to get done before they're even ready to consider the next step of working with me. So I'm very mindful of the types of strategies I give, as well as the volume of homework that I give people. Remember, more is not more. If someone is doing a single 45-minute session with me, I can see it in their eyes if I have given them far too much homework. And this has taken some practice and finessing over the years because I do want to ensure I maximize how valuable people find those sessions. But it's very important to remember that more homework doesn't equal more value. More strategies does not equal more value. Because ultimately, the value that people get from their sessions with me is what they implement and the results that come from what they implement. And I know if I give people 97 different things to do in a session, the odds of them actually doing it all are slim to nil. And actually, it makes it far more difficult for them to prioritize what they are going to implement first and what is actually going to have the most impact on their results. That is part of my job, is to be discerning about what advice I give them and what strategies I give them, and giving those strategies in a way that makes them very implementable and therefore far more likely to net the results that people are looking for. So the goal is not to avoid giving people advice or homework in the first place, but we do want to ensure that giving people advice and giving people strategies or giving people homework isn't going to impede your capacity to then make the sale. Let's remember that just because people do have some homework to complete as a result of the conversation you've had, whether it be a session or just a sales conversation, does not mean that there is no opportunity for you to talk to them about how you can keep working together. And it does not mean that they aren't able to consider or make a decision about the next steps of working with you and buying something. It comes down to the way that you structure your sales conversation. And in particular, the way that you structure the plan moving forward and the qualifying part of the sales conversation. So whether someone has had a free session or a paid single session, or they are just on a sales conversation, I structure my sales conversation to ask lots of questions and really understand what they're looking for. And I'm giving little bits of advice here and there. And then as we get into bridging into, okay, now I've got enough information to feel like I know that I can help and it's time for me to do some of that qualifying, I will first and foremost lay out what I think would be a smart plan moving forward. So if we've done a full session together, that would look like generally 3 core strategies, and they've got all the instructions on how to implement those 3 core strategies. So here's what the plan is moving forward. If it's just a quick sales conversation, I will generally just clarify and confirm of what they're looking to do. What is their goal strategy that they want to implement, or what is it that they want to be working on? So people will come to me and say, look, I know that my foundations are a bit rocky. I think I've nailed my niche, but I really need to get my messaging stronger. And I also need to develop my skills in the sales process. So I'll say, okay, well, it sounds to me like what we've talked about, and based on all the questions that I've asked, that your plan moving forward needs to be 1, 2, and 3. So it's a lot more detailed in a session that turns into a sales conversation, but it's still there in a short form sales conversation as well. So then the next step is that qualifying stage. And this is where it's really critical that we have good qualifying questions to gauge where that person's head is at in terms of readiness to consider the next steps of working together, and also qualifying, well, is this someone who is actually a good fit for working together? And do I know what the right recommendation is to make for their next purchase, for their next steps with me? So questions like, okay, so does that plan sound clear for you? Is that clear enough? Have you got clarity on what your next steps are going to look like? Are we in agreement of what the strategy looks like from here? And then I will often ask questions like, okay, well, what's going to stop you from being able to put that in place? Or what's missing for you that you feel like you need support and help with here? So those qualifying questions didn't just like appear out of thin air for me. These qualifying questions and my go-to questions have come from hundreds and hundreds of sales conversations and trialing different ways of asking questions to really ascertain where someone's at and what it is that they are looking for. And as I go through asking those qualifying questions, I'm paying attention not only to what they're saying in their response, but I'm also paying attention to what vibe do I get in relation to their enthusiasm to move forward. So I'll look for visual clues like, are they leaning forward? Are they getting excited? Are they speaking more quickly? Are they feeling a bit frustrated about something? So I can see and gauge where they're at and their enthusiasm for what I'm saying about the plan moving forward. So if I say, well, what I recommend is we do a big content bank and we create 100 posts for your socials. We need to build a new lead magnet that's actually validated and it does a great job of attracting high quality leads for you. And then what I would recommend is we also run a webinar. When I'm talking about those recommendations, they are like looking overwhelmed or they aren't getting really excited about that plan, I pay attention to that. And I ask questions about their enthusiasm for it. And I have my cute little hashtag, #ButtTash, hashtag #ButtTash. And so a lot of people in my audience will be familiar with like, give me your #ButtTashes. And so I will even say that in my sales conversations as well. I'll say, I'm getting the sense that you're not as excited about this plan as I am. So I just want to give you full permission. Like, give me all of your #ButtTashes now because I don't want to force you down a strategy road that isn't something you're excited about. I want you to feel really excited about the plan. So let me know what's going on, what's coming up for you, what's the challenge here or what's the barrier here. So I'm really paying attention. Now, if they are fixated on their homework, right? If in my questions, they're like, oh, I just really want to put this in place first. I really think what you've said about XYZ is really important. And I want to try that first before I'm ready to think about this bigger plan. Or, they're really clearly just need to get some steps taken first before they're ready to consider, then that's okay, right? I will just book in a follow-up call. I'll say, yeah, good plan. What I recommend we do is let's make sure that it doesn't just get put to the bottom of the list all the time. What if we book in a 15-minute follow-up call in a couple of weeks' time? That way we can check in and see how that's gone and see if the plan we've mapped out is the right plan moving forward or if it needs to be adjusted. How does that sound? And 99% of people say, yeah, perfect. I'd love to talk to you again. And they love that, okay, I've got a deadline. Some people will negotiate the deadline out because they've got a busy period coming up or they don't think they have the capacity. That's fine. But we've booked that follow-up in. If they are not fixated on getting that homework done, if they're not saying that, they are clear on what the plan is beyond getting those tasks done, then I continue to proceed with my sales conversation structure. So what I find is by having that setting the tone at the start of the call, by having clarity on my structure on how I end the call, and by really mastering okay, here's the plan, and then asking the qualifying questions and then going into that confirmation statement. So it sounds to me like if you could get help with X, then you would feel Y, right? So I'll link to my sales conversation structure episode with this podcast episode as well, if you haven't listened to that one, right? So if you get all of those things done, then number one, you're less likely to create a lot of homework for them and have them just fixated on that short-term homework. But number two, you also have a really clear process for if they do get fixated on getting that homework done first, how you will still keep that sales conversation running and you're just, moving it down the time frame a little into more of a follow-up sequence. And I always recommend booking a call as the follow-up where possible, because that is far more likely to then give you that next layer of insight and that next layer of feedback and messaging insight for whether people are seeing this as valuable and this is the right fit or not. And then the other thing I just want to quickly touch on before we close up this episode is pay attention to your mindset around giving all of those strategies and going overtime and giving people lots and lots of homework. Because I do also feel that it's not just down to a strategy issue here. For a lot of people, the homework issue that comes up for them in their sales conversations actually stems from a bit of a mindset issue. They feel that they aren't worthy of having a 15-minute chat with someone unless they give that person a tool or a template or some specific strategy to move forward with. People feel that to have their potential clients or clients value the sessions and the time that they are working with them, they have to be over-giving. And as I said earlier in the episode, more does not equal more. And if you do feel that you might be giving a lot of homework or you might be giving a lot of extra advice in sales conversations or in those sessions, if you're consistently running overtime with clients, I think it's a really good idea to pay attention to your mindset around why you are doing that. What fears are coming up for you? What worries do you have if you don't do that? I see this a lot where people put their prices up for their sessions, and then when they run their sessions at the new price, they end up running overtime a lot, or they're jamming far too much into those sessions. And it's because they're trying to earn the price increase. They're trying to earn that increased value. So really pay attention to your mindset. And that can be as simple as making sure that after every sales conversation and every client conversation, you do a little bit of journaling around how you felt it went, where did you feel like you gave too much, or where do you feel like you're worried about the value, what comes up for you from a mindset perspective as a result of having done that sales conversation or call. And this is the case with most of the strategy work that I do with people and the strategy advice that I give, is that there is a balance between the mindset piece and the strategy. Yes, I have laid out a very detailed strategy for you in this podcast episode, but also there can tend to be some mindset stuff that's behind the reason why you're overgiving or, giving people a lot of homework as a result of being on a sales call with you or doing a session with you. So hopefully you found that one really helpful. I know this is a little bit longer than normal for a Tashmas episode, but I'm sure you'll agree that having the strategy piece really laid out in full and also having that clarity of looking for some of the mindset insights where this might be coming from is really valuable. And so I really hope that you've found this to be a helpful episode. Now, because it is a Tashmas episode, I have a special gift for you, and that is for the first 30 people only. I am offering 75% off my Skyrocket Sales course. So I have a self-study course called Skyrocket Sales, which walks you through how to ensure that you are maximizing the sales that you are making from your marketing efforts in your business. And it's a really juicy little course. It's absolutely brilliant. And if you are one of the first 30 people to comment on the linked post with the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/440. It's my Tashmas Day 10 post on my Facebook page. Then you will receive a coupon to get 75% off. If you miss out on the 75% off, you can still get a juicy discount. It just won't be as big. So make sure that you still come over and grab that coupon code, because Skyrocket Sales is a really powerful course and it's one that you can smash out in a couple of days, but it makes a significant difference to the effectiveness of your sales strategies and your marketing. So if you'd like to make more sales in less time and embrace consent-based marketing, so we're not relying on agitation and admiration strategies, we're not manipulating people or using trickery in order to get people to purchase from you, then I want you to come and check out Skyrocket Sales and grab one of those coupon codes to get it for 75% off. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. See you tomorrow for day 11.